The Frames Per Second podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Frames Per Second podcast. I'm your host for the evening. This is Mike Seatown. I can't say next to me. Above me, I have Spike.
What up?
Next to Spike, I have Ken.
What up?
And next to me, I have Q, who's going to be joining us for this review. What's going on, Q?
What's going on, y'all?
All right, and we are reviewing the movie Cuckoo. And I was trying to get the director's name, but I'm not typing fast enough, clearly. But he also did a movie called Lutz, Lutz, I believe, that I actually really enjoyed. So I was really interested in seeing this. This one stars Hunter Schafer, as well as the dude from Legion. What is his name?
David something.
Dan Stevens.
Dan.
Yeah. And the director's name is Tillman Singer. So yeah, let's do a quick around the room and just give some brief thoughts on if you liked it or not. Spike?
It was solid. I didn't hate it. As we all know, I'm not a big horror movie fan. I don't think this probably wasn't horror. It's more thriller than anything. But they did a really good job with the mystery part of it, which I really enjoy from movies. As far as what the hell is going on, I didn't think the payoff was really good, but all in all, I enjoyed the hour and 40 minutes that it was.
Ken?
Yeah, I fuck with it. I think it was a good mystery going on. I like how, he incorporated elements of nature into this movie as well. So yeah, I was fucking with it.
Q?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the movie. I didn't think I was gonna like it the first 10 minutes in. I was like, this is a little slow, but it picked up in the first 15 once we get to the hotel and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think that it's worth a viewing or two, because there's questions and there's things that I got answered on the second viewing that actually kind of brought it more together for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the best thing about this movie is when you see the trailer really does not give anything away, which I wish Hollywood would get on board with trailers like this. This felt like a very throwback style of doing trailers, where they're basically just telling you you're about to watch a weird ass movie, so get prepared. And that's it. You don't know what the hell it's about. But I found myself in the theater extremely entertained, and for once really interested in what the mystery was. So let's go ahead and get into it. The movie starts with a girl running away from her house. We don't really know what's going on. A man on the phone is telling the guy that they just lost their adolescent, which is a weird way of phrasing things. But then it cuts to Germany, and we meet Gretchen, played by Hunter Schafer. We meet her dad, her stepmom Beth, and their daughter Alma. And they just moved there. I believe that Gretchen's family was opening up a rental property. So Q, you saw it twice, so definitely jump in if I misunderstood that. But yeah, what did you think of the family? We'll start with you, Q.
Well, first of all, it just gave me a very I think we all could see that there's Shining, some type of inspiration there with the aesthetics of the whole mountains and traveling up together. The very first scenes of The Shining, it gave that reminiscent. So the family dynamic, it was giving me fractured or new family, or what I'm saying, that Hunter Schafer's character is from a previous marriage of the father. So we have this competing eldest daughter and burgeoning new family together, where there's not a lot of resolved trauma or resolved issue and friction between her and the dad that plays out throughout the movie. But I thought that it was a realistic portrayal of that type of dynamic, because normally in movies, when there is a new element brought into the family, like a new daughter from a new marriage, an eldest daughter from another marriage, they try to make it so dramatic of there's a resolution and we all come together and hold hands in the end. And I felt like that was more realistic in this one as a, hey man, we're still kind of fucked up, but I am not going to take it out on the youngest daughter because she had nothing to do with what your fuck shit was in terms of Hunter Schafer's exposition throughout her relationship with the mom and all that stuff. It was a really good dynamic. I felt like it kind of hit the mark for me. So
it definitely seemed like Gretchen didn't want to be there. She was in a situation that wasn't of her own choosing. And, seeing that, it was a mixed family as well. Were there any dynamics that would come into play with her dad having remarried and had a kid that, going in, it would seem that he's maybe a little bit more attentive to that one because that's one that he just had and he's raising himself, and that he may be more of an absent father to her, and now they have to sit here and come together and try to build this relationship that they didn't have. So yeah, it was interesting to see how the dynamics of that would play out over the movie, if at all.
Spike?
Agreed. Yeah, I think the dynamic of the non-traditional family was going to come back up. You could tell they were leaning heavy on that. I found it interesting, her relationship with her sister, and as far as how it played out at the end versus what we were introduced to at the beginning, as versus her not even calling her a sister to what we seen at the end. So there was a lot to take in there as far as her role in that family, and you could tell that she had just been placed in that role as well. So yeah, it led to a good mystery.
Yeah, I agree with y'all. I like the way the family was set up. It definitely gave vibes of, I don't really know what the hell's going on with his dad, but something here is sketchy, especially when we get to meet Herr Koenig. Now, personally, I immediately got sketchy vibes from him. I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but I was like, all right, this is something ain't right. So, Ken, did you get sketchy vibes from Herr Koenig?
Yeah. And they tried to kind of, play with it a little bit when he walked up and he introduced themselves, but then they were like, they knew each other. So it was that whole sort of thing that they do in movies. But the sketchiness came when he walked up to Gretchen and he just put his arm on her shoulder and just left it there. I was like, bro, like, what are you doing? That's kind of weird. Like, get your hand off my shoulder, bro. So, but yeah, I think they did a good job of setting that up. And for me, that was a good indication of like, nah, this is the guy we need to watch.
What'd you think?
Yeah, they did.
Sorry, go ahead, Spike.
I was just gonna say that they did lean heavy into that, like that you could tell something was going on, but not giving it away early, I think, was one of the best things about this movie. Like, you wondering, like, okay, what's weird with this dude? What's weird with this place? So that was a good job.
What'd you think, Hugh?
Same things. On the first viewing, I was like, he's off-putting. Second viewing, it's like, oh, you're making moves from the very beginning to get certain people in position. Like, he was definitely playing chess with everybody of how he interacted with the father and got on his good side, and how he was trying to make the mother feel comfortable and getting Gretchen out of the way, and so that he could focus more on that nucleus of those three, and Gretchen could just be getting money and living her, teenage angst in the hotel. So he was definitely sketchy from jump, but both viewings always had a red flag with him. But the second viewing definitely gave me more like appreciation for the structure of the story and how they set it up with him.
So while unloading the car, we meet Dr. Bonomo. I'll say what I thought and something I picked up, but I'll go ahead and start with you, Q. What did you think of Dr. Bonomo when you first saw her?
Due to the fact it's neon, a neon house production, already just don't trust any doctors in their movies because all their doctors they're trying to kill somebody. The doctor is doing human centipede stuff. The doctor is like doing experiments on people, and it's like they don't really get out of that wheelhouse. So I was like, okay, well, the doctor's in on some fuck shit from jump, and I think we see where that goes towards the end.
Ken?
Not too much outside of that. She is an accomplice, So for me, in my introduction is more of a wait and see what her specific role would be in this. But it almost, thinking about it now a little bit, maybe she was like one of the main persons that was involved with that whole situation as well. But yeah, it was more of a wait and see mode to see how things were going to play out with her.
Okay, Spike.
It was definitely given villain. She more so even than my man did, introduced it and welcomed them to the resort. You could tell something was off with him, but you didn't know if it was villain or he just had something sneaky going on. With her, it was definitely given villain. I'm up to some fuck shit.
So I'm gonna ask this: so y'all didn't pick up on her boots at all?
They were
No.
brown. When hers
Not
brown,
until later. I thought that was somebody else. No, I didn't.
So she was the one that was in the bathroom fucking with Gretchen.
I thought that was the woman.
See,
at
I
the
thought
end.
the lady. Yeah, I thought that lady, the villain. I would say the one that was chasing her. I thought she had on those same boots that we saw in the bathroom.
Did she?
I thought so. I
So
thought that they showed the boots.
when she was in the bathroom and after Gretchen leaves, the person gets down and you see the boots.
Mm-hmm.
When we meet Dr. Bonomo, the camera shows her getting out of the car and it focuses on her boots.
I think
And
you're
they were-
right.
Hers were a
Boots.
different color. I thought they were a different color. I'm not sure.
Maybe you're right, Spike. I only saw it once. I had it in my head this whole time that it was Dr. Bonomo that was fucking with Gretchen in the bathroom. Yeah, I think it was, because if it was the Cuckoo lady, then shit would have been all weird and the time would have been all
Oh, you
fucked
would have
up.
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was Dr. Bonomo that was fucking with her in the bathroom. I'm not exactly sure why, but I found that part to be interesting. So
Yeah, I think you're right.
Herr Koenig gets Gretchen a job at his resort, and on the first day, she witnesses some woman in the back puking. And that's not really explained, of course, but what did you think of the scene with Gretchen in her room when she was practicing the bass and Alma comes in? I'll start with you, Ken.
I was thinking you need to get this little girl some help. Coming here, having a epilepsy, or seizure. I'm sorry. But I thought it was a dope scene, and having, because you found out that sound is a big play here. So you have her with these headphones and she can't hear anything. She's coming in there, she can't speak, and then all of a sudden she's kind of freaking out and seizing up. So I thought that was dope. What I was wondering, because of the vomiting that took place that we saw, like I was wondering if there was some type of machine that was causing these people, and sound could do that was causing people to have these reactions to whatever experiments they were running. I didn't know it was going to be what we ended up with, but I thought it was some type of military experiments that they were running.
Okay. Q, what did you think?
Well, I mean, it just gives me like feelings of, it started like The Omen for me. I'm like, oh, child is going through something, and quickly that wasn't the case. But she was going through something. But I thought it was more like, oh, is this demonic? Are we getting like, is there something wrong with the area that they're in? You know what I'm saying? That's inducing this, and I think that we kind of see how that plays out, and that is the case. But more of a natural explanation or a supernatural explanation for that. But it looked like just something out of the Twilight Zone, where she kept repeating the same movements. And I think later on in the movie, Herr Koenig talks about, you're stuck in a loop, so you should stay home. So that kind of was foreshadowing with this moment here. But it was freaky. It was loopy as hell. So I was just all the way locked in at this point. I'm like, okay, what's going on here for real?
Spike?
Agree with Q. What's going on here for real was my initial thought. And I thought it was brave too, like to run it back like mixtape style, DJ drama style, to run the verse back like 3 times, 4 times. I was like, damn, what? I never really seen that in a movie before. So that being done, I definitely felt like it was brave and was waiting for the payoff on it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this scene was dope. It definitely was making me like, what the hell is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall seeing time loops being done this way, where it's such short spurts of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was something that was attacking Alma. I never thought that it was Alma that was doing it, even though she would have been doing it kind of not on purpose. But I thought that whole scene was actually really, really cool. What did y'all think of the interaction between Gretchen and Ed the next day at her job, where they see another person puking and chugging soda? Were you like, what the hell's going on with this woman puking? Spike?
Yes. I figured that was something to do with the overall plot that we hadn't been introduced to yet. But yet it was really weird as far as the puking and just trying to figure out what was happening there. Was it related to the time loop? Was it related to everything else that was going on in the story and how they were going to tie the two in together? So really good job by the movie again of just keeping the mystery going as long as they could.
Well, I don't know why I do this, but I was like, who the fuck gonna clean this shit up? Like, why do you keep letting these people come into this damn place and vomiting every damn where, and you got to clean this fucking shit up? At some point, enough's got to be enough. But she seems so unbothered by the damn puking.
I thought the same thing. My initial thought was, damn, she must clean that up a lot for her not to be fazed by that and not be pissed that she got to clean up vomit.
The one thing I love about genre film, like, you know, horror, is the fact that it can sometimes rely upon the preconceived notions of what the audience has already seen from the genre. So even if there's not direct homage to The Shining in, you know, theme or plot within this movie, I think any horror fan goes in once they see like I said in the beginning, them in the car, they're going to the mountains, it's the Alps, and there's a hotel. I think that I would be shocked if less than 50% of people didn't have at least a thought that, do any of these people exist in this hotel? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what I had in mind, because seeing her puke and people just act like things were normal, I was like, is she like hallucinating? Because especially with the looping and stuff, it's like, does this area make people see things? And that's where I first started it, but I kind of quickly dismissed that after like the next following scenes with the bike and stuff. But it's like, okay, something might be going on here psychologically that's making her think things are going on. But that's kind of what I thought about from the puking and everything going on.
Wait, did you already answer, Ken? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. My mind never went there. My mind never went to them not existing, but that does make sense why the mind would go there. So that's interesting. But nah, I was just like, what's happening? I'm in this.
Yeah.
I'm super duper duper in this. Why is she puking and then chugging soda? And who is this? Now, one thing that didn't necessarily pay off was I was skeptical of Ed from jump. The second Ed showed up, I was like, well, obviously not that lesbians don't exist, but it was just like, well, this is random, or not even lesbians, but like, you know,
what are the odds? What are the odds that you come to the German-French border in this little resort town, and then here's your little perfect girlfriend that you would want? Like, you know,
yeah, it was
a little
like,
too curated. It's a little too curated for your taste. You know what I'm saying?
That was the only thing that kind of made me think something was super up with Ed, because I was just like, yes, sure, plenty of people are sexually fluid, but it seems odd that you show up and then all of a sudden y'all are outside making out. I was like, okay, there's some kind of dream. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
But when Eric Koenig called and told Gretchen that she wasn't supposed to leave on her own and that he was going to come get her and he was bugging out about it, were y'all at all just like, okay, why is she not supposed to leave by herself? I see you nodding, Spike. Go ahead and Give us your thoughts on that part.
And I thought the sequence of that was really dope. Like how the phone kept ringing, and like when she ignored it, even when she was going to her bike, the phone was still ringing in the background. I think that was really good detail as far as how they did that. But as you said earlier, like I was all the way in at this point. Like, what is the mystery? What is happening? Why can't she be out past 10? Why can't she be by herself? Who would be looking for her? And I never thought about it until Q said it. But now it makes sense. It's like, is this even real? Like, why? Like a lot of the dialogue and a lot of how they were talking to each other seemed like a dream sequence. It seemed like it was a fantasy or a fake world. So I thought at one point, even when he was calling her and saying this, that everybody was in on it except for Gretchen. Like that's what it made me think.
Okay. Q,
yeah, this was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
no,
go ahead, Q. My bad.
No, go ahead.
No,
Ken.
Yeah, no, I did like this whole scene because I think when I was watching it and he said that, maybe it is a me thing when he was like, yeah, you need to lock the door and don't leave. I'm on the way. And I guess maybe her saying, no, I guess she was saying, I can take care of myself. I don't need you. So I guess maybe that's her pushback and why she never asked, why do I need to lock the door? You know, like what's going on? Tell me, and before you drive up here, what's the threat? So I, that was in my head. I was like, you're not going to ask why. And then I think just her carelessness when she just left the doors open. She walked outside to see what was going on. She left the doors open. I guess because she had that switchblade, she wasn't worried. But then she walked back in, and I don't think no one ever really closed the doors. And then she left. So I was confused by that as well, because I was like, you supposed to lock up and you just left the doors open. What's going on? But yeah, when she got on that bike and she was riding, and then of course he comes through.
We'll get there.
Oh, my bad. I ain't know you were talking about that whole scene.
Before you answer, Q, in your answer, throw this part in. I'm still a little bit confused by this. Why is it that Koenig wanted to protect Gretchen in this moment? Like, I assume he knew the Cuckoo lady was gonna potentially come get her, but why was he concerned about that part?
Because, well, I think that number one, the whole scene of him calling and whatnot, it was really well done. I like the way that this movie is shot.
Yeah,
more so, like I love how Neon incorporates like things that are, you know, seen as being 35 millimeter and whatnot, but they're actually like wider dimensions. But it's more so like that, like exposure and just the way that they like shoot with the grain on their film. I love that effect because it gives such a retro European aesthetic. So them being in the hotel and her being like, dude, whatever. To speak to Ken's point, and then I'll get to your point, Mike.
Yep.
The reason why I think she didn't ask why is because if you're, I imagine she's 17 to 19 in this. That's what the character is supposed to be aged at. If you're 17 to 19 and some weird German dude puts his hand on your shoulder and slides across your jacket, like you're not trying to really talk to him much. It's like, dude, get out. Anyway, bye. You know what I'm saying? You already don't want to be in Germany. Then you have this weird potential pervert, you know what I'm saying? In your mind, if you're a 17-year-old girl, 18-year-old girl, you're like, this pervert's trying to talk to me. I'm not, bye. I have a bike. And plus, I'm grown. You know what I mean? You're the eldest daughter. So the psychology and the motivations make sense to me. And the reason why I think Koenig wanted to protect her is because the least amount of friction to get this operation done, the better. The least amount of exposure that she has to knowing what's going on, the smoother that this can come. If I can just take her back to her home, because not to spoil anything, but to answer the question fully, in the hospital after an event with Ed happens, I'm sure you'll get to that, with when she gets the cast and everything, he tells her, he was like, it will be best if you just stayed home where you can heal up because you might be stuck in a loop. I think he's trying to protect her, not because he gives a fuck about her well-being, but he cares about that very German like efficiency. Like, we are trying to do this, we're here to do a job, and the less that you're outside and exposing yourself to the potential of this, and that's why he only hired people who had cars, because they could avoid her and they wouldn't see the Cuckoo lady. Right. But the fact that she was on the bike, it was potential collateral damage that didn't need to happen.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I just assumed that he didn't want her to become pregnant because it wouldn't make sense, because there's no person up there fucking her. So it wouldn't, like, there'd be no way to explain away why she now has a baby inside of her. But then something happens later that we'll get to that, threw my theory off. So this next part, in my opinion, was one of the dopest parts of the film. So she's riding the bike home and she has a sort of interaction with the Cuckoo woman. Part of this was shown in the trailer, but it wasn't enough to ruin it. It was still in the moment for me watching it. I was like, what the fuck? But that scene where she's riding under streetlights and it would be darkness, streetlight, darkness, streetlight. We knew what was coming. We knew the Cuckoo Lady's shadow was going to come. But for me personally, I thought the way that was filmed was so incredibly dope. So Ken, what did you think of that scene?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's like we know it's coming, but how are you gonna do it, right?
Right.
And I'm intently focusing on the shadow, waiting for it. And when that motherfucker popped up and she looked behind her, it felt so realistic because she didn't question anything. She just started pedaling fast as fuck and was out. And one of my favorite parts was when she just pedaled and moving on and on and on. And then you just see this motherfucker just hauling ass on the side. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Because at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I was like, is this a fucking werewolf? Like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? Because that motherfucker was hauling ass, bro, and caught up with her. But I like it. It seems sort of small, but she wasn't even really just pedaling fast. So it made sense for the Cuckoo Lady to kind of be right behind her at a pace where she can run and pedal at the same time. And you saw a clear distinction between when she really accelerated versus the Cuckoo Lady because the Cuckoo Lady couldn't keep up. But yeah, that shit was dope as fuck. I really love how they did that. Are we at the hospital yet when she went to the hospital?
Nope.
Okay.
Spike.
You brought up a great point in the beginning, Mike, when you were talking about like how the previews didn't give that much away. This was in the preview though, but I agree with you and Ken in the sense of it didn't ruin anything. Like if anything, I anticipated the scene that parallel shot with her running beside her and off in the distance. That was fire. Like that was probably my favorite scene of the movie, even though it was in the previews, but it didn't give anything away, like you said, Mike. And it was one of those edge of your seats moment where you're like, what in the I always appreciate movies when you be like, what in the fuck is going on? What is happening? What is that? And even when like she got up on her, you still couldn't tell, like, is that a girl or is it some like animal? What is that thing? Like as Ken was saying, a werewolf or whatever it may be. I thought this was the best scene in the movie. It worked, even though it was in the preview. It was fire.
Yeah, I purposely avoided all the previews. I just saw one small like mini cut trailer that was it was the movie I went to go see. I was in New York a couple months ago, and it was the movie with Sydney Sweeney where like she's
Immaculate.
Like that movie a lot, but that's a whole separate topic. And the preview for Cuckoo came out, and I was like, okay, this looks weird. This looks different. I don't need to see anything else. I'm already sold on the aesthetic. I'm sold on the actors. I'm all in. When we get to this scene, it just kind of cemented why I wanted to see the movie, because the buildup of the hysteria of Koenig to being like, yo, I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get you. So, all right, creature might be out there at night. That's what I'm thinking, because it's nighttime. And then one thing I love about the movie from here on out is that it reveals itself that it's not really a horror movie. It's like a sci-fi thriller with like horror characteristics to it. And I think that all three of those genres can kind of like bend into each other, because some people will say Alien's more sci-fi than it's horror. Some people say it's more horror than sci-fi. But I think that movies like this are positioned so squarely on each thriller, horror, and sci-fi that you can kind of just pick your flavor of what you love about it the most. When we see her riding underneath the streetlights and the trees that give it the cover, so we go from the darkness to the light, And this is such a natural horror scene too, because how many people around the world commute back home, commute to their job or whatever at nighttime where they're on a bike or they're on a bus and they feel uneasy about, I don't really know how I'm gonna, get through this weird stretch. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's walked home from a job one time and it's felt weird. Everyone is, ridden on a bike somewhere at nighttime and has felt a presence. And I think that it played so beautifully on the Cuckoo lady just running on the side, her completely oblivious, because we've all had our headphones on walking somewhere. And that's the horror of it, is that this could be anybody and anywhere, that you could be doing something with music blasting in your ears and somebody's after you. Somebody's watching you. There's a presence. So I thought that scene was very just masterful, because I haven't seen a lot of scenes in horror this year that made me be like, that's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. And the horror on Hunter Schafer's face when the Cuckoo lady's like, she's like about to scream. And I think she was screaming, but we see hear it. We just can hear it because the rock music is playing in her ears. I thought it was just, it's sound. It's very technically sound. I just love how it was shot and how it was acted out.
Yep. So while trying to get away, Gretchen runs into a hospital and she splits her head open trying to get through the door. And she decides that she's getting the fuck out of this little ass town. We see her calling her mother and saying she's coming home. She starts to steal money. And it turns out that she ends up, well, we meet Henry, the police officer. I don't know if y'all had much to say about his initial showing up. I didn't have that much, but we see her leave with Ed. And this is when shit gets really interesting to me. We see her leaving with Ed, and while speeding away, the time starts to slip inside the car. And we see that she almost runs over the Cuckoo lady. So I'll start with you, Q. What did you think of this scene?
It's fire. I thought, never trust police. So I was already from the jump. My antennas were up on some like, no one can be trusted in this little town. This is fucking weird. And I don't know, maybe this is just my, growing up in America, don't trust medical institutions that much speaking, but I didn't trust anybody in the hospital either, because I don't think hospitals, by and large, are here to really like help people. They're here to price gouge. I'm like, what's going on here, man? Do they actually believe her? And especially when the police officer's like, let's just change that last part to say, does that sound better? And she's like, whatever, sounds great. That already red flag. And then when we're in the car with her, time is slipping and we fast forward to them having the crash. That's where I was like, what is real in this movie and what's not real? That's where I was definitely still in on is somebody a figment of her imagination? What's going on? Is Ed even a real person? You know what I mean? Is Ed some type of like agent for the Cuckoo person? Like, I don't know what's going on. But my suspense was at an all-time high at that point. So I think by this point in the movie, not that I wasn't already in, but I'm like, okay, no, even if they tank the third half of the movie, I think I was still like this movie enough to be like, yeah, everyone should go see it. I was already enjoying it that much to that point.
Ken, what'd you think of this scene?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked after the crash how it was shot, and mainly the way the blood was flowing. I thought that shit was dope, because when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, she upside down, before they even revealed it. But I think that was just a small little thing, little detail that I really enjoyed when they did that. I think the other part that, just talking about the whole setup to we got there, was when she was in the hospital, and part of the reasons for her leaving was her dad not showing any concern for her at all, and just more concern for his more immediate daughter, the one he just had, and just really completely abandoning her and leaving her to her own machinations. I thought that was a good way to force her to leave the city as well. And Also when she called her mom, I was like, I don't know about that one. I think we've seen plenty of movies where, I think the mom is out of here. So,
Yeah, that was obvious. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I thought it was dope, and it kept her in the city, and she was fucked up too.
Dude, plus like we see the fact that now we realize the Cuckoo lady has like super strength and shit. She like threw Ed out of the car like she was the
Man.
Hulk. I was like, what the fuck? And then we hit the gunshot. So I don't know, Spike. That shit was crazy, yo.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Q. Like, it was another what the fuck moment when she picked her up and threw her. It's like, what is that thing that's chasing them that was in the middle of the street like that? But I thought Ed's character also, it was really convenient, as someone said before. I'm not sure who said it, but it was almost fake. It was almost like, is this really a person that's about to get her out of here? This seemed like it was too easy for her to be headed to another place and just get out of here. So the wreck made sense, and everything after that made sense.
Yeah. I thought the scene was really dope, really well done. And yeah, I do agree. I had that in my notes. The way they were showing the blood dripping from her mouth into her eye, I was like, what the fuck? That is such a subtle way to do that, but it was really, really effective. And again, yeah, the gunshots. I was like, all right, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yep.
Who shot? But next scene we get Henry the cop. Oh no, sorry. This is when we get the scene between Gretchen and Koenig in the hospital. And this is what Q was talking about earlier, where Koenig was telling her, I can't remember his exact words, but it was something like, you need to stay home until your cells heal.
So he was saying in this scene, Mike, he was saying that it seems as though parts of your body have torn apart and you have everything you need to do and all that shit, right? And then he was just telling her, like, if I were you, I would stay home until my body has grown back all of the destroyed skin and all this stuff. He was being very, like, biologically, like, you know what I'm saying, technical with her about like cells and skin and deterioration. And this is where you get like a really weird evil genius feeling from him, like evil doctor scientist, evil scientist feeling from him. And that's where I think the dad comes in, and then he's about to leave. He says he has to go back to work. And she's like, what if she comes back? The Cuckoo girl. And Hunter Schafer's character is really distressed and really distraught here. And the father's like, I have to go back to work. Like, what do you want me to do? The concern level that he shows for the daughter, the youngest daughter, and then the concern he shows for Hunter Schafer is such a contrast that I'm still in the moment of thinking, like, okay, is she tweaking? Like, is the Cuckoo lady real? Or is she like, is there like deeper trauma here that's making her like, because bro, like the scene in the car is so crazy because I'm thinking about it from a standpoint of like, yo, they're getting high. Is she just getting high? And like, is this like getting, you know what I mean? Like, there's just too many conflicting thoughts here that I'm still all the way in on the movie.
It's almost like she had a history of it. Like the dad was treating it as if you've done this before and I can't take this seriously.
Right. Like, oh, you're a problem child, and just like stop complaining, blah, blah, blah. If you're gonna go, just go. And it's like, oh, okay. So now everyone's motivations are kind of at odds here, where you're thinking against other motivations. Like, wait, is she crazy? Is she not crazy? Wait, the Cuckoo lady is something. Is she imagining it? Then when the police and everyone is just like, there is no Cuckoo lady, there is none of this, and he's just like, stop this. It's like, okay. But I think that once again goes down to some themes in the movie, and we can get into it probably later on, but it's like the motivation for talking about the trust and integrity of institutions like policing and hospitals. And there's some themes there where it's like, can you trust your doctor? Can you trust the local policeman? Can you trust the local hotel worker? Like, how much trust do you have in people that are supposed to be trusted authorities and things that are supposed to ease your mind of, hey, you're coming here, you're coming here to sleep. Don't worry about it. Just give us the money. We'll give you a key. Here's a room, right? And the agency that you give to somebody to provide you a room, the agency that you give to a doctor to heal you, the agency you give to the police to solve crime for you. It really put everything into perspective for me by the end of the movie.
Did y'all two already go?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So the next thing we get is we'll kind of skim over this, but Henry, the cop, he comes to her hotel and we find out that he's the one that saved her from the Cuckoo woman earlier. He's the one that fired the shots, and that he's investigating a previous murder and he wants Gretchen's help. And the whole story he gives is that there was a man there a month prior. A woman shows up, the guy chases the woman out, but his wife ends up dying because she choked on her own vomit after the woman left. So Henry is trying to figure out what happened there. But Gretchen determines that this stuff is happening in the lover's nest suite of the hotel. So they decide to stake it out. So I'll start with you, Spike. What did you think about what happened in that room with Beatrix / Trixie?
As far as when
the Cuckoo woman kind of showed
the Cuckoo
up,
woman broke in, another what the fuck moment. Like I didn't put 2 and 2 together as far as what was going on until it was fully explained to me. So this scene, it was like, okay, I see what's happening, but what does it mean? Like what does this mean in the sense of how it's affecting everything else in this world, everything else in this movie? It was very well done as far as Gretchen acting like she was bored out of her mind, is watching this and nothing is happening. But then when something does happen and the guy's like, I finally caught her, I finally got her. I thought that was very well played. As far as what happened inside, I couldn't tell that what was going on with the impregnate when she was trying to impregnate the lady, or what was happening there. I didn't like, but I thought it was well done. I'll say that.
All right, Ken.
I like that now we get a chance to see the villain, so to speak, and the powers fully. So it gave us a little bit more explanation of what we're dealing with, because we just saw it running and then we just saw it in front of the car and then it was shot. Now we actually get a chance to visually see this thing and you know, all the powers it was able to do. I was wondering around this time if this thing was a Banshee or this writer's director's version of Banshee creatures and kind of retelling in this weird sort of twisted way or reimagining of sorts. But you know, I was still on hold and in a way to see kind of moment. And again, not knowing what's happening, especially with the slime. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with this slime and shit like that? And then you see Henry's had this experience because he rolled Trixie over, I believe, was like, yeah, she'll throw up if we don't roll her on the side. So been there, done that, it seems.
Q?
Yeah, same basically as everybody else, because by this point in the movie, I'm thinking that, well, once again, who's real, who's not? I'm still in that mindset. So, but once again, I think it was really well acted, and the suspense at this point still on a high for me. I'm still trying to put 2 and 2 together. With Beatrix, I'm like, okay, so what? Like, she got like, we all thought it. Why she got nut in her hands? And like, what is she?
I don't want to say that, Q.
Like, come on, dude. Like, what is she doing? Like, and it's like, where is she reaching from? Like, what's going on? It's getting real sexual. So suspense was at all-time high, but it gets real campy with the fire. Or what was that? Was that a flamethrower gun or was that like a silencer? I seen it twice. I still don't know what that was. He had like a sheet over his gun. He
put the pillow over the gun.
The gun when he caught on fire. I'm like, this is so campy, but it was.
But why did he do that?
Fun. I guess he didn't want to alert. He didn't want to alert the other people and cronies to come.
Right.
So chases her outside. He chases her outside, and he looks around in the forest, and he's like, I don't know where she went to. But at this point, this is where Hunter Schafer's like, oh, no. She's real. She's fucking real. Y'all not going to get me this time. He saw it too. You know what I'm saying? But even then, I'm still like, is he real? So what's going on? So.
Yeah, I thought this scene was super well done. Because again, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. And I was happy about that. But like when Trixie was in the bed and then we see, I think the other guy, Eric, I think his name was, sees the Cuckoo lady in the reflection. And the time starts skipping and he's repeating what he just did over and over again with the glasses. But then the way they filmed that part where Trixie was looking and then the Cuckoo lady was just there. I thought that shit was so fucking dope, man. So dope. But I wasn't sure at first because I thought it was nut as well. But then I was like, I'm being stupid. She probably maybe spit it in her hand, but it looked like she was reaching out from her crotch. So I think that whatever these cuckoo people are, they fucking it comes out of their if they have a vagina, whatever they have down there, and then they implant that into the person that is knocked out. But
and that's how they get the next generation of them, like he was saying later.
Yeah.
So do people realize that they're in a loop? That's what I never really understood. Like, did that man realize that he was like doing that over and over again?
Yes, because like I think the first couple times they do it, it's just like, okay, whatever. This is sort of just deja vu. But then the third time, I think they're like, nah, something ain't right. Because like when it happened to Gretchen, the first couple times it was just like, oh, I'm doing this over again. But then you see the third time her face changes and she's like, what the fuck? What's happening right now?
Got it.
But yeah, I thought all of that shit was really dope. So were y'all surprised? I guess it's a dumb question. Y'all were not surprised to find out that Gretchen's mom was dead because when we get back to the
I was. I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't know what. But I thought I was like, look,
hey yo.
I ain't even gonna hold you. Look, I was like, why her mom not answering the phone for her, bro? Like, why she gotta keep leaving her messages?
Damn.
I was like, bro, not only do the dad not like her, but her mom don't fuck with her either. That's why she sent her over there. I was like, damn, why she keep leaving messages, man?
Good Lord.
I'm gonna assume that Q and Ken didn't have that same issue.
No, I didn't have that issue. I was like, damn, man, calling my mom must be Brian McKnight or something. Like, this is crazy. Like, hey mom, it's me again. Hope you call me back. It's like that shit was desperate as fuck. I was like, oh my god, man, have some dignity. But after the second voicemail, because I think there's like a total of like 5 voicemails in the movie. After the second one, I'm like, oh, she's playing stuff from the past. She has to either be dead or something. But I definitely didn't think that she was still alive though.
So I'm laughing at Spike, but I will say I had a dumbass moment because I didn't realize this until after the film because I had to think about it. But when we hear Alma's message, I was like, so this little motherfucker can't speak. The hell? So she was just lying the whole time. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until well after the movie that she just used text to talk because I didn't even think the voice sounded like her. I was like, how she got that adult ass voice? I was like, what the fuck is up with this movie? But yeah, so what did y'all think of Alma's message that she left her? I'm gonna start with you, Spike.
Alma's left the message for the mom.
Oh, you didn't catch that?
I missed that.
She was like, hey, this is me. It would be really nice if you talk to Gretchen. She loves you. If you could come visit, you have all the time to come see us, and you can come. Yeah, you know what I mean. She said, "You're always welcome here. Yeah. We love you." Blah, blah,
and then she brought that back up at the end.
Yeah.
So the little girl didn't know her mom
message for like Gretchen because she saw that Gretchen was sad, and she was like, "Will you please just call her back because she's really sad that you're not talking to her,
responding to her."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think she knew that she died. That's why she left a message for her. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Spike didn't catch that it was her. I assume you did. What did you think of that?
It was really sad, but it was endearing because you realize, like, you know, when she's like, if we flash back to the hotel scene, the first time she's there, she's like, "Oh yeah, you have a sister?" She's like, "Yeah, no, that bitch ain't my sister." Blah blah blah. But it's like, it made me realize that okay, Alma's not against Gretchen. Her dad, the mom, and everyone else might be against her, but Alma is innocent in this, and she loves Gretchen. And she wants her to be happy. So I thought it was nice.
Ken?
Yeah, it was cool.
I thought that part was really sweet, and I was hoping it was going to come back, but I thought it was really sweet that Alma, this little girl that Gretchen is not nice to in any way, shape, or form, still cares about her and still wants her to be happy. And it kind of conflicted with the scene earlier where she was in the room and she was having that seizure and she fucking smacked the shit out of her because I was still just like, what is going on with Alma? But I thought that scene was really sweet. But this is when shit gets very interesting to me. Koenig tells Gretchen to leave a goodbye note and to come with him. And for some reason, fool ass Gretchen does it instead of running her ass out that house and taking off down the road. But yeah, so Koenig takes Gretchen to a building where they're holding Henry, the cop. They're holding him hostage. And it turns out, I didn't pick this up until they said it. It turns out that Henry is actually investigating the murder of his own wife. He was the one that was the husband in the story that he was telling earlier. So I found that interesting. But yeah, Koenig takes Gretchen into this room. He sprays her with pheromones and he locks her in. What did you think was about to go down when the weird little blonde girl came in the room?
If I could just back up for 2 seconds before the scene, I feel like it was like a really important exposition that when Koenig comes to the house, which precedes this very scene, he comes to the house and he brings her the package from her mom's house, and the dad is like, we sold it. I thought that scene was hilarious because Gretchen is like, what are we doing here anyway? You know what I mean? She's like, she's trying to get him to let him know, like, hey, I went back to the resort. You know what I'm saying? I went back and I saw some things, and he's like, it's okay. It's okay. He's playing really cool and calm. And at this point, that's where she smacks the father and she's about to go off and whatnot. And that's where he's like, you know what? I'll drive you to the train station. We'll get you your money and we'll take you there. So then when they're in the room now, I'm like, she's in danger. By the time that he leads to see Henry on his knees with the gun behind him, I'm like, girl, you need to get out of the house right now. He ain't about to take you to get your money. And she believed him up until the very end where he's like, let's go to the other room, Gretchen, and get your money. Henry's a very bad man. He's not a police officer, blah, blah, blah. And then they walk in and sprays her with the pheromones, and she like falls asleep. I'm like, oh, this dude really is a mad scientist. So at this point, I'm like, okay, the Cuckoo lady's real. These people are real. She's not crazy. And that's where I'm like fully like, oh, we're now in sci-fi land now with this shit. Okay, bet.
Yeah, this was intense. I'm with you. I thought it was stupid for her to even believe this motherfucker. Like, why the hell are you gonna believe him? I mean, he did use Henry as a way to coerce her into believing that he was actually a good guy, but it still was stupid. Like, you can't trust anybody there. But who does she have? Her own father turned against her. You know, she doesn't think her as well. She doesn't really like the family. So, and she lost Ed. We don't know where Ed's at. So he was pretty much kind of the only person that she has, because he was the one that she may remember was saying, lock the door, I'm going to come to get you. So up until this moment, he was the one protector she felt like she had until that moment. And then she's straddled on the bed, and then she's basically about to get assaulted by this damn woman coming up in there, which was creepy as hell how they did that shit. And I was sitting there thinking, like, how the hell is she gonna get out of this situation? Because she's fucked up. Like, her arm is jacked up. So physically, she's really unable to properly defend herself. You know, until we heard the gunshots and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, I thought this was really dope because it seemed really very, very insurmountable for her.
Yeah, I'm with Ken. I'm thinking, does the movie turn now at this point, and now she becomes that thing that she was running from? Like, because that, like, not being able to get out of there, I feel like was a real thing. Like, how are they going to? It's almost like they wrote themselves with their back against the wall, and now how do you get out of this? And so I, as a viewer, was looking at it like, damn, like she's about to become whatever that is that she was running from. I think you had a great point, Q or Mike, as far as like, that was the only person that she could trust. Like, that was the person that was telling her to lock the doors. That was the person that was calling to try to make sure she was okay. So I wasn't really that mad about her going with him. Like I'll give you the money, you can get out of here. Obviously, you ain't on the same page as your family, so you can just go. So I wasn't mad as a viewer of her trusting him to do that. But then once you get to the house and you see the gun behind the cop's head, you're like, oh, okay, so he is setting her up. And then the setup comes to, okay, once he turns her into one of these things that they're experimenting on, what does this movie become now? That's where I was.
Yeah, in the scene that was earlier where Koenig is at the house, he tells when she says, "Why are we here?" Koenig says, "Well, your family belongs here."
Yeah.
So
she's like,
in
that's
that
a weird
moment-
fucking way to put it.
What does that
Right.
mean?
And I agree with her. I was like,
Yeah,
why the fuck did he say it like that?
yeah. Like, yo,
So-
this guy's strange as fuck. Yeah.
This dude is weird. So it's like after that, I was just like, why are you trusting him? Why are you
Yeah.
trusting him? This dude sounds fucking weird.
Mhm.
And the second y'all got in that house and he had the gun on the cop, why are you still kind of like, I mean, I don't know if she was at that point, like still trusting him, but I didn't understand why the fuck she left with him. I was like, I don't know. Anyways, so this is when we get not an exposition dump because people don't seem to like those. I'm kind of fine with them, but yeah, this is when they kind of explain what has been going on with these creatures, that they're impregnating women at the resort, and this exposition comes from Koenig and Henry. We're going to combine them and get this full story. That the creatures are there. Koenig is he claims to be kind of a preservationist, so he wants to preserve these creatures. But they're impregnating women at the resort, and these creatures are like cuckoo birds. They lay their eggs, and other species raise them, which I had to look that up. That is actually how cuckoo birds reproduce. They lay eggs in other birds' nests, and they trick the other birds into raising their kids.
Fucking deadbeats.
Deadbeats.
It's
Yeah, like
wild.
yeah.
So, Ken, since you're already talking, what did you think about the explanation of what's been going on here? Were you like, this is cool? Were you like, this is fucking stupid?
No, I didn't think it was stupid. I thought it was actually pretty clever to take something that happens in nature and make a horror movie about it. Like, I'm not all that familiar with what cuckoo birds do. I just know them for the fucking clock. So that was it. So to now know that these creatures are basically like, sorry ass parents, that don't want to raise their kids and put them in this adoption agency until they're ready. It's an interesting idea to make a movie about. And then of course, because again, I'm like, what are these creatures and why? And for it to be cuckoo birds or a version of cuckoo birds, I thought was interesting for me because again, like I mentioned earlier, I was like, are these banshees? Like, what the fuck is this? And then just brood parasitism overall. Just now I want to know more about that because that's like some weird ass fucking shit that happens. Like, how the hell you not? Well, I mean, I know how the hell you want to don't want to raise your own kids, but for birds to not want to raise their own kids, like for animals to do that, like that's actually kind of interesting. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Q?
Yeah, I feel like this kind of brought home the entire central theme of the movie. Like, this was like, there's other tertiary themes, like I was talking about, like with authority and stuff like that. But it's like the biggest theme here is the fact that the cuckoo creatures, which I think are supposed to be synonymous with other mystical creatures like fairies and jinn and skinwalkers and daywalkers, all that stuff, right? If you ever seen the movie that came out this year, The Watchers, and there's another movie where they got damn near the same plot with Halle Berry coming out, where she's like in a cabin in the woods, like the same thing, and there's like these skinwalkers that you have to stay with this rope, and if you don't stay on the rope, they're gonna get you. It's the same plot. It's like A Quiet Place for Watchers, is what it's called, basically. And the same themes I saw here was that her parents didn't want to raise Gretchen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the father didn't want to raise Gretchen and actually deal with the trauma of, the same way the cuckoo birds like traumatize other people and don't want to raise their kids. Gretchen was traumatized and her dad didn't want to raise her and essentially wanted to just ship her off anywhere to get her away from her. Even if they were in the same house, hey, go do your own thing, like go work at the place, or hey, if you want to go off to Paris, do your own thing. Like, I don't want to raise you. And I feel like that was kind of the central theme being exposed there about parents who don't want to do the dirty work of actually raising children. even down to Alma, where I think Alma is just kind of being used as like almost like their toy, the same way that like the medical institution is toying with her to get the next step in evolution, blah blah blah. On like a lesser note, I think the mother is giving very like bourgeois, like bougie, trying to have a baby just to have a baby's sake and not really wanting to raise Alma because they don't really actually pay much attention to her and her emotional needs. They're just trying to make sure that she's not dying. You know what I mean? That's like the bare minimum for what a parent to do, but they're not making sure that Alma is taken care of in the same way. So I think the central theme here was like neglectful parents and what happens when you don't give the proper time to raising a child.
That's a good point. It confirmed my suspicions that the dad was in on it. I thought that this whole scene and her calling him out and the dad not really taking that seriously goes back to the beginning scene as you like, what's up with this dude? Like, he's weird and the dad is weird. So it confirmed my suspicions there. I think Q, you had a really good point as far as the overall theme of it, in the sense of parents not wanting to raise their child. But I needed the exposition dump as well. I needed that to tie everything in together to get me from what the fuck is going on to how the fuck do you end this now. Yeah. So it was really good.
Yeah, I had here to ask if y'all saw a correlation between what was happening with these experiments and Gretchen's dad, and maybe that's why he was so cool with whatever was going on there. Mm-hmm. Because his place in this whole thing confused me until the exposition dump, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Because it seemed like he knew what was happening, but he was just kind of like brushing it off like it wasn't a big deal. But then we get the reveal of what Alma is, which is that she is basically the Cuckoo lady's daughter. And that Beth is just a surrogate. And Henry also reveals that him and his wife are supposed to get pregnant at that resort. So that's why when that whole thing happened, it was very traumatic for him. But you piece together, people are going to this resort. They're getting the lover's nest. They're fucking, but they're actually getting impregnated with the Cuckoo lady's children. So when they leave pregnant, it's not surprising because at some point they fucked. So what did y'all think of the scene back at the testing facility where Koenig was actually going to kill Alma? And this is when he kills Dr. Bonomo and the other nurse, whatever that was in there. And then Gretchen has to try to stop him. And the whole fight between her and Henry happens. I'll start with you, Q. What did you think of this scene?
It was dope. It was this is where we kind of get like him covering his tracks, and he's trying to make sure that all the loose ends are basically fixed. So he making sure that, oh, you all still have the recordings of me in your houses in the basement, right? And he shoots them with the shotgun. I feel like that was really badass and tragic too. But it was also just like, yo, all right, time to get everybody clean up. And I don't know why he hesitated. I still am struggling with that. Why he hesitated to point the gun at Alma, because the gun was down when he went to the operating room. He doesn't really point it at her head and draws it back. He just looks at her like, I think he needed to continue the experiment. That's why he didn't, towards the end when she has him, when she has Alma by her head and whatnot, she's like, we're going to come out. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't get shot because I think Koenig needs her to keep the experiment alive, especially after what happens to the Cuckoo mom. You know what I mean? He's like, okay, well, I don't have anyone else to continue this experiment now. So that was definitely strange, but I was like all the way locked in and ready to see where the ending got, because we were coming in for a hot landing.
Well, so the reason he doesn't do anything to her, I think he was never really going to hurt her. Right. Because if you remember, I can't remember exactly what scene it was, but it was before this, where he says something on the lines of, the child needs to be trained.
Yeah.
So he was never really going to kill Alma, because this whole thing was about, he had Cuckoo Lady and now he has one of the offspring, or another of the offspring. So he was never really going to hurt her. So I just want to throw that part out there. Ken, what did you think of this whole scene?
I loved it. don't think I can't recall many shootouts in a horror movie before. It was like this old Western shootout that we had between Koenig and Henry. I thought was interesting and neither one of them can shoot either. But and then the whole scene with the Cuckoo Mom fighting Gretchen, I thought was dope as well. And I think Henry's lack of regard for both when he just walked in and just toppled over the towers. Because at this point, I think she was an obstacle for him to kill Alma. And he just needed them both out the way. And of course, Gretchen's willingness to survive at all costs by overcoming her physical detriments to get the headphones to kill the Cuckoo Lady by enduring such excruciating pain in that moment. So yeah, overall, I thought this was good all the way up to the end, and her clever way of getting out of there as well.
Great job of acting by Gretchen in the bookcase scene. Like you almost felt her pain with the arm and like how like she was trying to, like you said, Ken, get those earpods in or whatever it may be. But it made me wonder, like was her little sister the last one left? Like, are we to assume that there were no more Cuckoo ladies out just in the woods or whatever it may be?
We don't know because
I don't think so.
No, I'm not sure that that's true because we see those other people puking. And we know that the puking is a side effect of being impregnated. So it's not that Alma is the last. It's just that Alma is the only other one that's full grown enough.
Got it.
Where he can do the same thing with the throat and all that stuff.
And that's the reason that I asked, because I was wondering why he was taking so much caution with her. Like, are there more or what else was going on out there? But all in all, it was a great scene. Like you said, Ken, never see a shootout in a horror movie. That was new. I think the bookcase scene was great. And like the Cuckoo Lady in itself, just to address, like you never see a blonde white lady as a horror, like
you see that every day. What are you talking about?
Dr. Umar,
I'm saying them depicting that way in the movie. In real life, yes, you do see the Karens, and that is horrifying. However, I think it was a good spin on what you're used to a creature being in a horror movie. I thought they did.
Did y'all think she was going to poke her ears out? Y'all think she was going to stab her ears when she grabbed that knife? Oh, okay, I did.
No, so. Ken and Spike just answered 3 of the questions, so we'll just go ahead and move on.
Oops.
But, so yeah, there was the scene where the Cuckoo Woman shows up again. Gretchen pretends she's going to kill Alma to keep the Cuckoo Lady away. Alma starts having another seizure. Gretchen acts like she's gonna, stab her in the head or whatever. Alma thinks that Gretchen's gonna hurt her, and she shoves her away. So then Gretchen has to chase after her. Yeah, y'all just skip
that's why she pushed
shit. They go into the book. They have the fight in the bookcase. Gretchen ends up killing the Cuckoo Woman by stabbing her in the neck. So we'll get to this part that y'all didn't skip. And I'll start with Q, since Q answered the question I asked. We're almost done. We only have like 2 more questions. But Q, what did you think of the interaction between Alma and Gretchen when they were in that room? And Gretchen was trying to convince Alma that she was not going to hurt her.
I think it was the finality of them cementing their relationship as like, I know you want me to be happy. I want you to be happy. Right. I think there was a switch in the film where she started to be more endearing to Gretchen when she defended her listening to music. And it was probably like 20 minutes prior in the movie where she's like, it's just music. It's a good thing. Let her listen to music. And that's foreshadowing that the doctor who told her no music just wanted her to be able to listen to the Cuckoo Woman call. So she realized that Gretchen had nothing in on it. And especially when Henry tells her, we can't trust your father when they're heading to the hospital. That scene is interesting too. And it plays into this because I think they had enough runtime where they could have called the dad and they could have maybe did this and that. But it didn't lead to that because I think she realized that you all don't really care about either of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you all don't really care about Alma in the way that you should be going to bat for her, because you're just letting these doctors do whatever. You're letting these weird people tell us where to live, and you're letting them curate our entire life for us. And you don't believe me, and you don't like me either. So I'm not gonna call you and be like, "Hey, the guy's in the hospital. He's shooting people." Blah blah blah. She's like, "No, I'm gonna act as the protector for Alma, because no one cares to go to bat for her, and no one's going to bat for me. So we got each other." I thought that was a really beautiful scene, and it kind of cemented what was started with the headphones, and then the voicemail with Alma for the mom. I felt like they finally came together as a family unit, them two.
Yeah, I thought the scene was really well done. I thought it was sweet when Gretchen says, "Hey, my mom got your voicemail, and you know, I spoke with her, and thank you for that." I thought that was just a really really nice scene. But after this, we get the scene where Gretchen and Alma actually escape, which one of y'all, Spike or Ken, alluded to. But yeah, Spike, overall, what did you think of the scene where Gretchen and Alma are escaping, and the technique that Alma used to get them out of there?
I like how she prefaced it with asking the guy about his wife and making sure that he wouldn't go rogue and shoot her, like just on some flashback stuff or whatever it may be. So I really like that approach and how they made it for us, the viewer, make sense. Like, because if she had not did that preface thing with him about his wife and asking the question like 3 times and then just walked out of it, I kind of would have smacked my lips at it. But being that they did preface it, and being that we did see my man with the shotgun already show how much concern that he had for the little sister, it was a really good scene, and how they did that and didn't just do a complete FU like M. Night did on the other movie that we did. We don't care what y'all are watching and what y'all see. I really like that they made sure that it made sense.
Ken?
Henry wasn't about that life, bro. He could have shot her and moved on. Like, why does he care about Gretchen that much? You know. So, like, to protect her.
Shoot the little sister though, right?
Huh?
He didn't want to shoot the little sister.
No, Henry wanted to kill Alma. Henry didn't. Okay. That was what was so beautiful about the scene, is the way they were going out. Alma was on one side where he was being blocked by Koenig, who didn't want to kill her, and then Gretchen was on the other side being blocked by Henry. Henry didn't want to just kill every random person. He specifically wanted to kill the people that were responsible for his wife's death, and Gretchen was not.
He should have shot her in the leg.
And even on like a more linear symbolism there, like, it was, children are always in the crossfire of adult interests. You know what I'm saying? Like, quite literally, children can be casualties of what adults and their agendas are, which I felt like was another, you know, the whole familial and, you know, paternal themes going on, you know, by this point. I thought it was really well done, and a great visualization of that sometimes kids got to look out for themselves and say, fuck what these adults are talking about, dude. Like, we got to make sure that we stay alive. You know, I thought that was really dope.
So the next scene we get, they get out of the room. And one part that y'all didn't touch on is I thought it was really dope that Alma puts her hands over Gretchen's ears and then does her thing, whatever they call that. And it makes Henry and Koenig be in a time loop long enough for them to get out of the room. Yeah. Once they're out of the room, we hear 2 gunshots. So we assume that they've shot each other. But Gretchen and Alma get outside, and there's Ed, who I don't know where the fuck Ed has been for this while. I mean, I know Cuckoo Lady threw her ass, but I don't know. I don't know if she threw her ass into another state. I don't know where the fuck Ed was. But Ed showed up with, was she stealing that car? I don't know. But they get back together. They all get in the car. They drive off. Movie ends. I'm going to start with Spike. Was this ending satisfying?
It was satisfactory. It wasn't, I didn't feel like I wasted my time in this movie like I did with Trap last week. So it was intriguing enough. It gave you the answers that you were looking for. I I thought that was a cliche movie ending, but I was not mad at it. It wasn't the sense like, oh man, they let me down as far as the ending. So yeah, great job.
Q.
I think they accomplished what they came to do. They had a mission and they executed it. I don't think that, I think we're kind of spoiled as fans of horror and sci-fi and thriller to think that everything needs to be like, some Michael Jackson Thriller ending where she turns around and like, now, it wasn't actually Gretchen. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what needs to happen all the time. Sometimes it can just be a save the day. Now let's ride off into Paris with my lesbian girlfriend. It's going to be great.
Ken?
Well, I think that's the least Alma could do after she slapped the shit out of Gretchen ass 2 or 3 times in this damn movie is to protect her ass at the end and get out of there because she kept abusing her ass. I thought it was convenient. I think Q makes a good point, but I was like, that's it. Like Ed I assumed she was just in the hospital. Maybe she heard the gunshots and was like, I need to get out of here, and walked out to go carjack this car and bounce. But I still had a couple of questions. Like, where the fuck is the dad and the mom? That's the we saw the dad wheelchairing the mom out, who was all kind of drugged up and shit. So I'm like, where are they at? But all in all, I don't know if we really needed answers to that anyway for the movie to work. It was just some lingering questions I had for myself. I was like, well, that don't make sense, but okay. I guess
one amendment, I will agree with Ken. I did wonder. I asked myself, what happened to the parents? Like, where were they?
So I love this ending. It was definitely abrupt. I was like, okay, that's it. All right. And I had to reconcile it on the way home. I think the reason we didn't see the parents anymore is because it wasn't really about them. It was really about Gretchen and Alma coming to an understanding. And I think we're supposed to take at this point that Gretchen has figured out that at least the dad is involved.
The dad.
I don't know if she knows, and I'm not sure that Beth was involved. I don't think Beth was involved. The dad definitely was. So I think at this point, and Gretchen don't give a fuck about Beth anyway. The only person to her that was important in this moment was Alma, and she wanted to get Alma as far away from there as possible. So the way I took it was, the dad wheeled Beth back into the hospital, and that was kind of where their story ends. So it's a question, but it wasn't a question that did any damage to me because I was like, that's a pretty solid ending. I'm happy with that.
I do have a question. So, because I agree with you. Beth is on record saying I don't trust these people, and that's when she got doped up. I don't think that Gretchen's turn to protecting Alma was somewhat sudden because she went from saying that's not my sister, which she was completely
that's
right.
My sister.
That's my sister.
It was convenient for the movie, for the plot.
I don't know if it was convenient because you look at the evolution of her going in from the very first scene to the very last scene, right? The very first scene, you have her completely distrusting and disgusted with the situation, to her going through traumatic events, to trying to find answers on why these traumatic events are happening to her. But she's having trauma stacked on top of unresolved trauma with her mother and that family situation. So she feels like she has no family and everyone is out to get her. I feel like that's a very teenage mentality to be in. It's like, it's me against the world. No one likes me. Everyone hates me, blah, 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 right? And I don't think that she was actually wrong in that her dad, for all intents and purposes, hates her. The mom, for all intents and purposes, hates her. And she looks at Alma as a product of that neglect of like, oh, well, she's not my sister. She's just a thing that they're having to make it look like they love each other too. Because I think there's subplots and there's sub themes here of like affluent people who don't really have deep connections with each other. They're just kind of checking the boxes of, oh, we're going to Europe and we're having a daughter, we're having a baby, and blah blah blah. We're buying property, and it's these very, bourgeois tendencies that neglect actual humanity. So when you get to them finding out okay, he's being set up. We're being set up. Can I trust my dad? He's never been around anyway. The ending kind of exemplifies that. Well, where have our parents ever really been for us anyway? It's always just going to be, the kids that fend for themselves when parents are neglecting them. So it wasn't really a sudden turn to me. It was more so a really slow churning evolution. If you go back to how she feels about the entirety of being in this small town. Now she's like, let's get the fuck out. Alma has nothing to do with this. She's actually innocent in this, and I can trust her. Gretchen was in a fight for finding trust in anybody. And that's why I think she hung to Henry, because she was like, okay, somebody actually at least cares about their interests enough to put me inside their interests. But now that he's pointing the gun at the person who I know actually genuinely cares about me, now I'm going to go for my sister. I feel like it was earned to me, man. It was really earned.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do get what Ken is getting at, though.
Yeah, facts.
It did kind of seem like it came out of nowhere, but once I had to really think about the film and think about the fact that, throughout this movie, Gretchen, no one gave a fuck about her. She really had no autonomy. It was just like, oh, she's just this thing that's just here. We're just going to go stick her at the hotel and ignore her, and we're going to focus on Alma. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there was this jealousy of Alma until she realizes that, wait, no, Alma has no autonomy either. Like, they're just using her, So I think it was supposed to kind of symbolize that Gretchen saw not necessarily herself in Alma, but she saw another being that people didn't really care about. Mm-hmm. So she just, she teamed up with her. I thought the ending was great. When it ended, I was like, God damn, it's been a long time since I've seen a horror movie or even a thriller where the ending didn't leave me unsatisfied. But I think with this one, the only complaint that I would give this film in general is I don't personally like it if you make a movie rated R and you don't show a lot of like blood or killings. Like anytime people are getting killed outside of the Cuckoo Woman, they cut away. Yeah, I kind of would have liked to see Koenig and Henry shoot each other. I would have liked to see whatever they did to Eric. I would have liked to see those things, but that's a very small gripe. This movie wasn't grounded in gore and blood and violence. I know a lot of the advertisements for this film was like, oh, this is the scariest film and this is a bloody ride. And it's like, no, it's none of those things. It's just a really well-made film, and that's it. It doesn't have to be bloody. It doesn't have to be overly scary. There were definitely moments where I thought it was very creepy, but I'm not getting nightmares over no shit like this. But I thought it was a good film. My last question before we wrap up, and I'll start with Spike. Do you think they left themselves room for a sequel?
Yes, because of the question that I asked earlier, like, are there more? And we seen the vomiting, like you said. And if there are more, how is that handled? Like, is there another doctor in the wings? Is there another, I can't think, it's Koenig, the guy that was over the resort. Like, is it someone that was over him that he was answering to? So I do think that there's room for it to be a part 2.
Ken?
Yeah, I agree. We didn't see either one of them die. So we didn't see Koenig specifically die. And you guys have already alluded to there being more babies, and shit, Alma's still alive. So shit, you can't trust her. Yeah, she don't know what she's gonna turn into.
I mean, hey. Yeah. I think they also have like Cuckoo 2. I could definitely see it. Like they could even start literally right on the road and right from when they left off. Like, oh, the dad is finding her, and now we're in the woods. There's other cuckoo ladies. Like it could get really dirty out there, man. Oh, who knows? But I was definitely intrigued to see if they could expand on the script. I wouldn't be mad if they start right from the ending. Like, yo, let's pick up right on the road.
Yeah, I'm in agree. I don't necessarily want a sequel, but if it came out, I would definitely see it. I would think that it could be interesting if either Koenig or Henry lived, because both of them have a vested interest in Alma. So if they have Henry live, since Henry wants to wipe out all of the Cuckoo people, he would clearly want to knock out Alma. If Koenig lived, he would want to get a hold of Alma because that's his creation. So I wouldn't be upset at a sequel either, but I'd also be fine if they were like, nah, this is it. The story's done.
Yeah.
Move on. But yeah, I thought this was overall really, really well done film. I'm glad to hear that y'all enjoyed it as well. Want to thank Q for coming through and talking about this with us. And yeah, does anybody have anything else they need to say before we wrap this up? That sounds like a no. So make sure y'all share this review with your friends and leave some comments and let us know what you thought of it as well. And yeah, we'll see y'all on the next one.